Bitcoin was once on the moon, and now it's not. And in today's video, I want to be going over pullback targets that I'd be very much interested in here for Bitcoin, as it does put in its first major pullback since this rally did begin, which was on January 13th. Other than that, we have a few other fun things at the end of this video as well, which I do think are probably of interest for just general direction. And other than that, we just jump right into it. I expect that today's video will be a little bit more on the shorter side. And as far as Bitcoin goes right here, I did want to trial out something very, very quickly. Now, with Bitcoin pulling back after this pretty nice rally since January 13th, you know, it is still, at least as far as I'm concerned, a potential uptrend, because Bitcoin does have a higher high. It does not have a higher low yet, but on this pullback, there will be a potential to put in a higher low. And if there is going to be a higher low, that would be very interesting to me, because that's probably one of the major areas beginning in on for Bitcoin, because at that point, you kind of have to expect trend continuation, as I still would have an overall bullish outlook coming into February, you know, for the month of February. And this current move right here would be pretty good for a position, I suspect. Now, first things first, I actually want to try something here. I'm going to try something completely new. I want to ask my chatbot, the chatbot that is in the Trade Like a Quant program, which you can see right here. I want to ask it, what would you be looking for on a pullback? So what would you be looking for on a pullback during an uptrend? This is going to be exciting. All right, is it going to get? I don't know if it's going to get the answer right. Let's see what happens. During an uptrend, when looking for a pullback, you'd typically want to identify a few key elements. Yes, support levels, Fibonacci retracements. Okay, that's actually very interesting. It's suggesting the 618 or the 786. It's also talking about volume and momentum oscillators. But I think something that we can just pull out right here would be the Fibonacci retracement levels. So let's go into it for Bitcoin. Let's take the low of where this rally started to the high of this rally. And we can see a lot of the major fibs are actually very close to current price action. The 50% retracement level is at 99,350 or so. Of course, this is going to be operating on a closing basis, but as long as Bitcoin has not closed below there just yet, that is always an area of interest for at least a bit of a bounce, and you can kind of see Bitcoin struggling around that region as of now. The next ones, as our nice little bot over here did identify, is a 618 and the 786, and that would be 96 or about $97,000 and 93,500 bucks respectively. So these would be my next major areas of interest. You know, for a worst case scenario, obviously it's going to be the lower of those two, somewhere around 93,500 bucks. You know, could Bitcoin find a wick somewhere around this blue box here, where it has been finding wicks for the last 2 months? Definitely yes as well. But ultimately, these are areas of interest. So I'd really be circling off this right here. There we go. All right, I have to make sure that I press the right damn button. And there we go. And I do want to just kind of extrapolate a little bit here, because obviously if Bitcoin were to come down even to the worst case scenario, as far as what I'm concerned with right now, you know, assuming that things are still bullish, which I do believe that long term they are, that would still be a higher low. That would still be a higher low, or at least a bounce region. In fact, probably all of these are going to be bounce attempt regions. But if Bitcoin were to come down around here, you know, you'd be hitting a major fib. Plus, you'd also be on a higher low, and I suspect that we might see the potential for some divergences on our momentum oscillators. But for right now, it should be known that the daily timeframe stochastic momentum is positioned to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below $106,000. So I do suspect that this corrective period will go on probably until the end of this month, probably into the beginning of February, actually. But again, you know, setups here are for mid to late February. So moving on from there, I did want to get into the HPDR and see if this corroborates with any one of our major levels for the weekly time frame. We can see that the weekly for spot price action rejected the median yet again. So it had once and then twice over the last couple of weeks. Now coming back down, playing coast to coast on the old bing and bong. And you got binged right here, and we bonged down here to the 38.2 level minimum, which so far has provided the impetus for a little bit of a bounce. Again, that would be essentially an alignment around the 618, about 97,000 bucks. So I do look at that as kind of the most hopium inspired level for a for a higher low. Personally, I think I do think that things will trade lower from here after a bit of a intraday bounce, or maybe even a bounce into Tuesday as well. But hey, it is possible. How would you know that Bitcoin actually is reversing and putting in and confirming a higher low? Well, we need to see Bitcoin pop up, turn around a little bit, preferably trade back above and close above on a daily time frame about $102,000, or actually even a little bit above there, but we're just kind of rounding right now. So if Bitcoin were to do that, I'd say, hey, lower prices are off the board here, and I'd be looking for some sideways and up. Maybe it doesn't happen exactly immediately, but ultimately I'd be looking for that to kind of play out again midpoint of February, let's say. I think that's where a lot of things are positioned at, especially with this last rejection of the range highs. I want to also pull back, by the way, to our last major consolidation, which was, of course, the majority of last year, and just highlight that, hey, after a big move like this, 50% move to the upside, things can spend a long time going sideways, 2 to 3 months, I would imagine at minimum. And I mean, to be fair, Bitcoin did get into this range about 2 months ago. So if we head into the middle of February, there you start to get around about 3 months. So ultimately, Bitcoin, I do still think is overall fine. It's just, this current phase right here, it's setting up for a little bit of a downside move. In fact, this whole way up from that rally starting on the 13th of January, we were cognizant that, hey, Bitcoin is probably going to pull back at some point and put in a higher low. So I believe that is what it is doing right now. And of course, we should go over the HPDR for CME, see what any major regions are, and if they corroborate again with what we just looked at on the Fibonacci retracements. And what do you know? The bottom side of the 38.2 level is about $93,500. Of course, there is a bit of a premium over spot price action for CME. So again, that would very likely coincide somewhere around low 90s, let's call it 92.5 to 93.5, somewhere again in this nice little LARP circle right here. That the LARP circle. It should also be known that while Bitcoin did close the last weekly like a fucking hair above the median, to open up below the median to start this week and immediately sell off and take out the low of the prior, I do look at this as still a range play. Like no breakouts confirmed. We have not seen any open and closures above the median. So, goes back into the same consolidationary range that we have been looking at for, again, the past couple months. Other than that, we should also take a quick look at the monthly here as we do head into the end of the month. And I do want to highlight the importance of the median on the monthly. The median on the monthly is $99,500. It would make things very easy if Bitcoin could actually close above the median before or by the end of January. And we have another 4.5 days left to go. This month will end officially on Friday's closure. So if Bitcoin closes below, let's just round it up to $100,000. Bitcoin closed below $100,000. Okay, that could be a bit concerning, but for right now, do you think it's a pullback? And then if Bitcoin closes above the monthly median at about $100,000, that's going to be a really big confirming factor for, I think a legitimate upside try in February. But for right now, coming under pressure at the end of the month, not the best sign, to be fair. But hey, a lot can happen in 4.5 days. I mean, shit, a lot just happened in the last few days or the last week. So, I wouldn't be calling it exactly right now. It is a bit premature. Other than that, I wanted to quickly go over this as well. Like I said, it would be a bit more on the shorter side, but I wanted to follow up on the moon setup right here. Again, this is using, of course, the Quant Prime AI service, which you can set up these sort of strategies, or any strategy really that you can think of and have access to the indicators of on TradingView. And automate as well. And we were talking about the upside moon strategy. The upside moon strategy was simply opening on, I believe it's called the full moon, closing on the new moon. I'm not super good with these terminologies, by the way. I'm not an astrologist. I'm a TA astrologist, but not a real astrologist. For that, you need to go to the witches like Marin or whoever the fuck. Is she even around anymore? Who knows? Anyways, the last time we had a full moon right here, it actually did play out a nice upside move. I mean, pretty much getting the low. That was again on the 13th of January, and it will be closing, I believe, today, and we're going to get a bear moon, if you want to call it that. So this very likely does close positively, barring a massive catastrophic fall before end of day here. But Of course, I do think that closing these sort of ones within about a week. In fact, if you put a time factor on this, if you're in the Quant Prime service, that actually might be worth testing. I think I could definitely see that working out, because a lot of the time you see an initial move and then it kind of gives it up closer to the next closure. But hey, something to be aware of. Anyways, we will be seeing a bear moon, I do believe, after tonight. Yeah, that'll be 15 days after the full moon signal did begin. And, well, has it been a really good signal when you get one of these? I'm just going to call it a bear moon because price typically goes down. Has it, is it a descent if and when that does happen? Actually, no. It's actually not. A lot of them do fail. It's unlike the upside ones. The upside ones have been pretty consistent over time. Again, not perfect here. You can figure out many easy ways to automate something like this, optimize something like this. I kind of just went over one earlier with time closure by time. Does that? Anyways, but it is always somewhat of a concern, I do believe. We do see a lot of these downside moves kind of beginning with the blue moons, which is the more bear moon. So perhaps, we do see a little bit more of downside over these next, 3, 4, 5 days. But again, if that brings Bitcoin down to like $93,500, well, that's fine by me. Overall, the general range continues here, again, between about 108 to the upside versus about 91,000 bucks to the downside. Anything between here, I do still believe works in the bull's favors long term. But of course, we're going to test a little bit of downside here, and it's going to be scary for a lot of people. A lot of over leveraged fucks who are leveraging even more on altcoins, which is like a extreme leverage play. And it doesn't seem to me that altcoins are doing too well during this. I will say so. This is starting to be quite important, because a lot of my analysis for the more long term is based off of the monthly, as you've been looking at, and in the last couple of days, the monthlies have obviously changed around a lot. So again, it only matters where they close on January 31st. But for right now, it does seem like we'll see things turn down a bit. I also want to call out one last thing on the monthly here for Bitcoin. We spoke about the median, but also I want to highlight the importance of the $90,000 region, because that is a momentum pivot. Now, again, I don't think that things are coming down below there, but I do want to show that Bitcoin could come all the way down to 92, 93,000 bucks. And if it just closes above 90 by January 31st, we will see momentum go to the upside. It will be in the critical zone here, yes, but I would still be favoring the boo laws overall. So other than that, it's a good place for me to be signing off. Like in my little chat bot right here. By the way, if you're in the program, definitely test it out. It's like having a fucking pocket crown, who's actually, at this point, I think it's kind of better than me. At least it can remember a lot of things better than me. But it might not get the exact nuances, but check it out. In fact, I'll probably even be raising the price of that program, just kind of reflect that, because obviously, it does cost to actually send the messages after like a certain amount, but right now we're fine. So I don't really need to do that, but perhaps in the future, if we get a lot of people using it, then that would certainly be a concern. So yeah, a long way of saying the end of the month is what really is going to drive this analysis. For now, it does look like the pullback very likely does reach a little bit lower. Just be aware of where those major pullback areas of interest are, and of course, if things fall below 90,000 bucks by end of month, it is what it is. I don't think that that's what's happening, but it is what it is. You will see me change around very fucking fast. But for now, we have hit our criteria for a pullback that was below 101, and well, now we wait. So other than that, I want to wish everyone the best. A little bit of a longer video than I expected, but all good. As always, take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.